Okay, so we're going to call this meeting to order. We only have one bill today, senators, to entertain, and that is Senate Bill 773. And because it is a constitutional amendment, we think that it's kind of important for us, and it's kind of it's very different. It's going to well, amendment. That's all I'm going to say. It's the title is Constitutional Amendment, General Assembly Standing Committee Appointments, and it's going to change the composition and the decision-making process for members to be appointed to standing committees. And I think that this constitutional amendment really deserves a lot of discussion, and we're going to spend these last 25 minutes, hopefully, talking about it. And so with that, and it's being sponsored by Senator Seminaire, and so we want to be sure that we give him ample time to explain this very important constitutional amendment. And he also has persons who want to come to give support to Senate Bill 773. And with that, without any further discussion from Joanne C. Benson, we will turn it over to Senator Seminaire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can hear me, I guess?
Yes.
Great. And thank you for that kind introduction. I appreciate your friendship and the friendship of everybody on this committee. And I'm very pleased to be joined with the former Minority Leader, Alan Kittleman, who has been known for his bipartisan efforts over the past years. We always look for improvement in process. And I first want to state that I am generically speaking of position and function of the presiding officer and minority leader, not of the current or any past members. This is strictly about structure and not individuals. I have a great working relationship with the presiding officer, and I just wanted to put that out there in the front, and we're just looking at process. So let me just start with a brief analogy. I think that will really tie this in. Hopefully this will be a very brief hearing, but I wanted to talk about baseball is one of my loves. I love baseball. I played softball a lot overseas. And if you can imagine one team having 9 members and the other team only having 4 members, that's the way the fans picked it, and it was just 9 on one side and 4 on the other. And the team with 4 members got to go to bat first, and they had some sluggers on there, and they actually scored 2 runs and were feeling pretty confident. Even though they were outnumbered, they were playing pretty well. And then they had to go out to the field with only 4 members. And they had a really good shortstop, and the outfielder had a cannon for a gun, and their catcher was really good, but they had an ace pitcher, and he put the ball in there so a lot of people wouldn't even get the ball into the field of play. And right when they were getting ready to start the inning, the player coach from the other team comes out and says, timeout. He says, I know it's 9-4 with the number of people, but we also want to tell you where you have to put your players in a position. And we really don't want that pitcher pitching against us. So we're going to put the pitcher in the outfield, and we're going to make your outfielder, who hadn't pitched since minor little league, and he's going to make him pitch. We're going to let you keep the shortstop and the catcher. And then they said, go play ball. And I would say even the most callous observer would say that was unfair. And that's basically what we have in the current Senate rules. The fans are the people who elected the members, the players are the senators, and the teams are the minority and majority members. And the player coach is the presiding officer who can select positions in the standing committee for both the majority and the minority members. And so we're putting forth this because we believe it's a question of basic fairness, and we're trying to provide a solution. So to the bill itself, the Constitution prescribes for both houses a couple of things they must do. One is judge the qualifications and elections of its members as per the Constitution and state law, appoint their officers, rule of proceedings, and punishment of members. And this bill just simply adds standing committee appointments. Specifically, it says, designates its highest elected member within each party to appoint their party's members to standing committees in a manner that reflects the diversity of each house. That's the bill. So what the current process is, whoever the presiding officer is, for all practical purposes, they're elected by the majority party, and they get to assign the members to all the standing committees, again, both majority and minority. And so why we're proposing this, we believe, one, it's a matter of fairness. It allows the minority to best align the strengths of their members on committees to promote the priorities of the people that elected them. Secondly, the minority leadership should not be aligned on committees to help to accomplish the majority's legislative agenda, however good that may be, by either helping them stop or advance legislation coming out of that committee. And thirdly, I think it's unfair on the presiding officer because it puts them in a potential unfair leverage over the minority party members, knowing that they can be removed or retained on a desired committee. And the last point is this body has used the federal procedural structure to justify other current Senate rules, such as the filibuster rule. Several years back, this body decided to make it harder to filibuster, which actually took some of the voice of the minority away. And the justification for that was, look at the federal model. It's been there for 175 years. We should go by that. And in the same manner, if you look at the federal structure now, both parties get to assign their own members on committee. So while we have seen the wisdom in the federal structure over the last 175 years since that has been in place, we don't want to emulate the politics and the debating that goes on. We're focusing clearly on the structure that this body has embraced in the past. I could go into more details, but I just want to give you a quick overview. And basically this legislation would require that the people approve it in the 2022 election. And I'm confident the people would see this as fair and reasonable. And my last point is I'm proposing an immediate rule change later today on the floor. And if this distinguished rules committee were to adopt that rule on the floor, I would withdraw this bill. Otherwise, if we can't make those changes, I would like to pass this constitutional amendment. And I ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions for the senator? I'm looking at the bill and it says designate its highest elected member within each party. Who would that be?
I talked with drafting and that was the language they chose. That would be the highest elected within their party structure in the House. So with the majority party, whatever majority party it is, it would be the Senate president, the presiding officer. For the minority, it would be the minority leader.
The minority leader, okay.
And that would be elected through their caucus.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions? Yes, Nancy, Senator King.
Thank you. Our current setup, the way things are right now, is that the minority leader consults with the Senate president. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Has that not been working?
Well, I think what I'm looking for is the process. I'm an engineer by trade, and we just think this is a fair representation so the minority can put their members where they think it best reflects those who have elected them.
I just thought we had always been pretty much doing that in conversation, working with the Senate president. I'm one of those people that don't fix it if it's not broken. I'm just trying to find out if it is broken or what the issue is.
I think part of the issue is the minority party shouldn't have to go, whoever it is in the presiding officer's position, and basically say, "Mother, may I," for our members.
Oh.
The minority party has no control over it. It's completely at the discretion of a presiding officer. And I just think that process is not fair, just as I gave the illustration, the analogy of the baseball. They could consult with the player coach, but they had the ultimate decision of whether to put the pitcher somewhere else or not.
Yeah.
I think that is fair as far as putting that on the minority party.
I just thought this year, and I know there were some changes that were made in the Senate. I thought that was done with you working with the Senate president to get it done.
Yes, I have a very good working relationship with the Senate president. This is not against myself, bringing myself into this or the current presiding officer. We have a great working relationship. I don't know that has always been the case, and it certainly in the future, it can be used in different ways. There is no requirement for a future presiding officer says, if I want to put Senator A on this committee and Senator B on that committee, I could consult with them, or whoever's in my position can consult with them. And they say, yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying, but no.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Could we now hear from, are there any other questions for, we want to hear now from,
I think there was one more
Senator
question.
Zucker has a question.
yes,
Senator Zucker has a question.
Senator Zucker?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Senator, so just to thank you for your time today and being a valued member of the Rules Committee. So just to clarify, so my understanding is this constitutional change you're requesting is based on the Senate in Washington, D.C. Is that basically direct language that they use in the U.S. Senate?
No, the basis for the bill is because we believe it's a basic fairness question. The illustrative purpose was to say back in the early 2000s, this body took away or increased the filibuster number from 16 to 19, which makes it harder for the minority party to have that moderating voice. The justification for that was look at the federal structure, and that's why we should change it. Nobody wants to get like Washington, D.C. with the debates and the politics and the nastiness. But if you look at the federal system, it's been in place for 175 years. And if you read the history about it, it's because it's created problems between the parties that they feel one party is doing something that the other party has no control over. So what they do is that in their caucus, they come up with procedures how to do it. The general authorities there, they typically do it with seniority and different things like that. But the general overarching is from the federal structure.
But the language was from the U.S. Senate, correct? I mean, this is the same language that would be in the U.S. Senate?
No, they don't have the same constitution that we have. But what this is saying is that the concept that individual parties can assign their members is that what we've put into this constitution.
Right. Which is very similar to what they have in Washington right now.
I didn't look at the Constitution as far as what they put in there. I know other states do this as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Senator Kettleman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, let me say hello to everybody. It's good to see everybody and Mr. President and a lot of my friends from my former time on the Senate. I am here to support Senator Simon Ayers' bill, Senate Bill 773, because I do think it's a matter of fairness. I mean, I did have the opportunity to spend 10 years in the Maryland Senate, a few of those years as the Senate Minority Leader. And I would tell you, if you walked out on the street right now in Annapolis, anywhere, and said to a Maryland resident, do you think that the minority party in the Senate picks where their people go on committee, or do you think the majority party does it? I could bet you almost 100% would say, of course, the minority party does it. That's how it should be done. But we don't do it that way here. And I think it's just the right way to do it. It's the right thing to do. To me, I guess the real question is, why not? Why do we not let the minority party decide where their members go and the majority party decide where their members go? When I was a minority leader, I had a really, really good relationship with Senate President Miller. We met often, and he was very gracious to me. But I can tell you, when I would go meet with him before session every year, he would basically say, Alan, here's where we're going to put him. He didn't say, Alan, where do you think we should put him? He'd say, Alan, here's where I'm going to put him. And I liked him. And, I didn't fight with him on it because that was fine. But I don't think that we should have the minority members, regardless, feel any type of being beholden to the majority party to get a place on a committee. I can tell you, I went to the Senate Finance Committee in 2007. I had to go to Senate President Miller to ask for that. I couldn't go to Lowell Stolfus to ask for that. He was a minority leader at the time. And I just think this makes more sense than anything else. I think that it's just the right thing to do. And also, I think it's important to realize this won't change the power structure in the Senate. It's not like now the Republicans or the minority, whoever will be minority at the time, are going to be able to make some big changes. That's not going to happen. Whoever has the majority party, whoever has the most votes, are always going to still be able to do what they want to do. I just think this is a matter of fairness, a matter of equity. And I just really think it's the right thing to do. And so I'm just simply here to say I support Senator Simon Ayer. I think that, the current Senate president is a very fair person, but there might not be someday a fair person. So I think this would be the best way to do it to make sure that everybody is treated the same. Thank you very much. I request a favorable report for Senate Bill 773.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Before he speaks, are there any questions that you would like to ask Senator Kettleman?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Madam Chair,
Yes,
Senator,
yes, Senator.
to our good colleague, not really a question, just wanted to say it's great to see you and hope you are well. While we may respectfully disagree on this particular issue, I very much appreciate the time that we work together and just appreciate you. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much, Senate President Ferguson. I feel the same about you, and we actually have mutual friends outside of politics, and it's great to see you again, and all the people on the Senate committee. I got to give a special shout out to Senator Gazzoni as well, too, because certainly he and I worked together for many, many years on Howard County issues, and I appreciate the work he does on the Senate Budget Committee.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. Is a further discussion on this constitutional amendment?
Madam President, I'm on. It's Dolores Kelly. I'm having problems with my Zoom, so I can't even get the camera to work. But it seems to me that in any total organization that has components representing different participants who are a part of the organization, whoever represents the majority needs, in order for there to be unity and efficiency, to make the ultimate decisions regarding how to place the various individuals who together are going to serve the public through that organization. You cannot do a good job, no matter who is in the minority or in the majority, if first you are divided in terms of what the vision of the majority is, because the majority does matter in terms of the placement and the talents. You need to consult with everybody, but you certainly can't depend on the minority to make a decision where a significant number of the players are going to be on a ball team or on anything else. And that's my view of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I just respond real briefly?
Very briefly.
Okay,
And
and
then
I
we'll
think
move
that
on.
gets to the crux of the matter. Senator Dolores said that the vision of the majority party. Well, the people who elected us don't necessarily agree on every agenda item that the majority party has in there, and that is the issue. We don't want to be assigned to committees to help, unfortunately for you guys sometimes, not to advance your agenda sometimes. Many times we can work in a bipartisan matter, and we love to do that, but there are issues where we won't agree, and we are not lockstep in with the majority party, so we don't always agree with the majority vision, and we don't want to be part of advancing that vision sometimes. So I think that's really why it's important. And the last thing, the United States has had this rule in there where they put the minority advances it and the majority advances it since 1846. It's worked well over those years. I'm not saying they don't get political in their debates, but for 175 years it has worked. So to say that it doesn't work in a state, I don't think is accurate. Thank you.
All right.
If I could just respond for a second, we're not talking about bill by bill or issue by issue. You obviously spend a lot of floor time, and you should, reflecting your position on individual pieces of legislation. What I'm talking about is when you look at the talents, the philosophies, and the contributions to be made by all members in terms of how well the organization works as an organization, you can't have two different leaders determining the placement of the people on the team. I'm a member of a demographic minority. If I were on a ball team, then I'm going to say, well, we're going to have Dolores Kelly, the leader of the demographic over here, make a part of the decision as to how the game is going to be played as a game and where the talents of people ought to be. So I just want to clarify, I'm not talking about, I don't think we should take anything from you. And you certainly use significant time, and you should, on the floor, making the point of the positions of your members on individual pieces of legislation. But when it comes to how many people can run one organization, we're talking about organizational management. I think it's been fair. If I thought it were not fair or done well, I would say to any leader, and you would have the right to say to any leader, and you still do, that I think something you're doing is or is not fair. But you can't have a minority running the structure, and it's the structure we're talking about of the organization. Thank you.
All right. Senator Zucker? Senator Zucker?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I did have an amendment that I wanted to present, if now is a good time.
Yes, why don't you do that?
Can everybody should be able to see my screen. Madam Chair, can you just let me know if you can see it? Okay, we can all see it. So this is, based on, and I appreciate my friend and Senate colleague, Senator Simon Ayer. I know the language that were adopted, that the language that is being presented right now in the constitutional amendment reflects what's currently the posture in DC. So I figured I'd also present language that is currently in the US Senate that would require just a majority vote of its members to make changes to the rules of its own proceedings. Obviously, given where we are and the fact that, we're looking at DC right now, this is one of the rules that DC goes by. So I'm presenting it here for discussion.
Madam Chair, if I could comment.
Yes.
And I've always had high respect for Senator Zucker, personally and in the Senate. And in the spirit of bipartisanship, I accept this as a friendly amendment.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could jump in on this and appreciate the conversation, and this is not necessarily on the amendment. I think on the bill overall, whether or not an amendment is incorporated, a couple of key points. And I hearken back to some of the very intense conversations that I had with our prior Senate president about this role and the difference between Maryland and other states. In other states, the majority leader is the presiding officer. In a lot of cases, there's a majority leader and a minority leader. One of the very key differences in Maryland, and this goes back to before there was a governor, before there was a House of Delegates, there was the Maryland Senate. And it doesn't say that the president of the Senate is of the majority party, but it is a position that is elected by the entire Senate. And that is an important difference because at the end of the day, we represent Marylanders. We don't necessarily represent Republican Marylanders or Democratic Marylanders. The Senate of Maryland represents Maryland. And that has to be first and foremost. And so, on one hand, this bill would almost make it easier for me personally, because committee assignments are some of the most challenging and difficult decisions that I have had to face in the last year and a half. They have huge impacts. And, there is no doubt that political party is one component, but it is a minor component in the grand scheme of all of the issues that have to try to be balanced when it comes to geographic balance, gender balance, making sure that we have representation from all different, parts of the state and from different viewpoints. The other issue here is that we're a citizen legislature, and so it is a part-time legislature. And I think that makes a big difference because there are people that come into this legislature with expertise and making sure that they have the ability to impact legislation that affects all Marylanders and that they can be in the right spot to be able to bring their expertise to bear is an essential component of how our system has worked well. And so, I disagree with this, even though it may even make it maybe easier for me to be able to sort of push that decision off. There are plenty of other hard decisions that I'd rather, spend time on. I really think that structurally, one of the big differences between Washington and Maryland is that we get to focus on Maryland. We don't have to have the big political fights. And I think committee assignments are an important component of that balance. I very much respect the minority leader and his perspective. I just simply disagree. From my limited experience in this role, I think it would be more like the politics of DC and less like the politics of Maryland that I think have been beneficial. And for that reason, I would move unfavorable on the bill.
And Mr. President, before you do that, if you don't mind, I'd say if I can just, my attitude is that the less like DC, the better off we are. And I'm an old-time baseball player myself. I've played baseball for 18 years. When I was born, I asked my mom, was I born with a catcher's mitt and public service? And in DC, you have your own teammates tackling each other. And we're not Washington, DC. We're the state of Maryland and the Senate of Maryland. And I believe that we need to move forward in a bipartisan way that doesn't reflect what we see right now in DC, that makes us unique. So in the spirit of bipartisanship, I'd be happy to remove and withdraw my amendment and take the bill as it was.
Okay. At this point in time, you're going to withdraw your amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
I would second the motion that was made by the president.
Madam Chair, if I could speak to the motion.
The motion is to withdraw the amendment.
Okay.
No.
Or are we moving on the bill?
The motion was to move unfavorable on the bill.
Before we do anything, we do have a hand up from Senator Klossmar.
Well, I did also offer a second to the motion.
No, I just want to say that I agree with what Senator Zucker said. As Senator Simonier, you say, if we're walking down the street and somebody says, who picks the assignments? Number one, everybody asks me, how you doing down there in Washington? They have no clue for the most part. Not everybody, but for the most part, people don't know that. And the way they fight and bicker and everything down in Washington, that's what people don't like. And that's what they continually say to me, quit fighting. And so I just think, President Ferguson does a great job. And I would assume whoever gets to be in that position needs to know how to work with people. And that's what I have to say.
Okay, a motion is on the floor at this point in time for an unfavorable. Is that correct?
Yes, and I offered a second.
Did we get a second?
I did offer a second, madam.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Senator, did you want to make comments?
No, just offering the second.
Yes. If I could, that would be fine, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
If I could make a comment on the unfavorable.
All right.
Thank you. And I appreciate you allowing me the time to present this. I know everybody's very busy. One of the key distinctions about a presiding officer is that they are elected by the majority party, basically. By the time it gets to the floor where we elect the Senate president, it's basically been determined in their caucus. And there are politics involved with the Senate or the presiding officer's position. We're not asking to change radical things. We changed the filibuster rule based on Washington, D.C. structure. It didn't change how we dealt with each other. We still had the same ability. This is talking about structure that they've had in place for 175 years. We don't want to emulate the divisiveness down there, and the structure change will not do that. It's easy to manipulate committee assignments to get the majority's legislation stopped or forwarded. It's easy to put, because we're not monolithic, we can say, oh, one of these senators would vote this way, we can put them on there. And what we did on the floor, you'll hear more about this, but the proposal was that the majority party would get to pick all their committee assignments, assign all their members, and then only after that, the Republicans would get to fill in the remaining seats just with their choices of where to put it, with the diversity of the House and in consultation with the Senate President. So that process would be there. We see it being very collaborative. It probably would only affect a couple appointments throughout the years. Again, we think this is a matter of fairness, and I leave it to your wisdom of the committee. Thank you.
All right.
Call for the question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just called for the question.
Okay, call for the question. We're going to now vote, and I'm going to ask Kate to do a roll call, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, the bells are ringing here. Senator Benson? Can you hear me?
On the unfavorable? Yes.
Yes. Senator Zucker?
Yes.
Senator Edwards?
No.
Senator Gazzoni?
Yes.
Senator Kelly?
Yes.
Senator King?
Is this on the, yes, on the unfavorable?
Yes.
Senator King?
Yes.
Senator Klossmeyer?
Yeah.
Senator Simonaire?
No.
And Senator Ferguson?
Yes.
Done.
All right. Thank you.
On the unfavorable, and the vote is how much?
We have 7 yeses, 2 nays.
All right, now, thank you very much. We're going to have another rules meeting on, we will convene again on Tuesday, and we will get to you on the time. All right, the bells are ringing, and so we need to get to the floor. Thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.